everybody. Today's episode for the Everything Saxophone podcast is brought to you by Gig Salad, the easiest way for saxophone players to book more gigs. Whether you play jazz, classical, smooth jazz, church music, Gig Salad connects you with event planners across the US and Canada looking to hire live music for weddings, parties, corporate events, anything, you name it. You'll get leads that match your availability, helps you to stand out on Google, and your gig money is guaranteed every time. Now, I use Gig Salad. I've been using it for years now. I really love the service, and I'm so happy that they are sponsoring this episode. What you can do is create your free profile at gigsalad.com and tell them that the Everything Saxophone podcast sent you. Hey, everybody. Donna Schwartz here from the Everything Saxophone podcast. I have a really special episode for you today. In fact, I've never done this before. I've never had a saxophone sextet on all at once. In fact, I want to introduce you to the Moanin Frogs. And what perfect music to introduce you to the Moanin Frogs. And this is from their latest album, out actually right now, October 3rd, 2025. One Giant Leap for Saxophone Kind. Listen to that full sound. Here it comes. And there we go. Welcome to the podcast, guys. It's so great to have you on.
Hi, thanks so much for having us.
Woohoo! So I've never had, we have most of the group here. Okay, we've got 5 of the 6 members. So, well, on my left, but it'll be on your right, I guess, Jeff Siegfried, and I've got Lucas Hopkins, I've got Gabe PK, I hope I'm saying that right, Jonathan Hulting-Cohen, and Jeffrey Leung. Welcome to the Everything Saxophone podcast. Unfortunately, Edward Goodwin couldn't be here today, but that's okay. We're all good. So, again, welcome to the podcast. Chelsea reached out to me and she said, hey, I think you'd be interested in this. And I listened. I was like, wow. The cool thing about this group, this sextet, the sound, 6 people, you sound like 12. You really do. The full sound, the intonation is impeccable, and just the fullness of the sound. And as we go through this podcast, I'm going to ask you some questions, but also we're going to play a couple more tracks. People are going to see the possibilities for all the instruments, going from bass saxophone all the way up to soprano, and I think sopranino too. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so just the skill level. So here's what I'd like to do. I'm going to go from, I guess, my left. I'm just going to shoot around here. I'm just going to ask you to introduce yourself and, tell people a little bit individually about yourselves. And then I'm going to ask you guys, about the group and how it's formed. So Jeffrey S., you're on my left. So let me have you introduce yourself, the main instruments that you're playing, just in generally with this group, and, just a little intro on yourself.
Sure. My name is Jeff Siegfried. I play tenor with the Moanin Frogs, and I teach at West Virginia University in Morgantown, West Virginia. Um, oh man, there's so many possible things I could say, but one is Lisa Simpson is my inspiration as a as a saxophonist. She's the reason that I play this instrument, and feels pretty cool to play the kinds of music, or maybe embody the way of playing saxophone that was popularized in that arena. Played a lot of classical. We play a lot of classical music as a group, but I think there were many years where the kind of music I was playing, it wasn't something I would have heard on The Simpsons, and with the Moanin Frogs, a lot of what we do could be heard on in that arena. So
That's awesome. Kudos to Lisa Simpson. I
That's
remember
right.
I remember
That's
when The
right.
Simpsons came out, and that was just so cool, you know. And a lot of times, if I had blonde hair, sometimes people say, "Hey, you know, Lisa Simpson."
I
That's
see
so
it.
cool.
Yeah.
Awesome, Lucas. Tell us about yourself.
Sure. Hi, yeah, I'm Lucas Hopkins. I play bass saxophone in the Moanin Frogs. I teach at Austin Peay State University in Clarksville, Tennessee, as well as some other places. But let's see. Yeah, Jeff mentioned like a little bit of his inspiration. For me, like after I started playing the saxophone, one thing that really inspired me was the Nuclear Whales Saxophone Orchestra. And I thought that group was so cool when I was like in middle school and high school, and I think it's really cool that I'm doing a similar type of ensemble and being able to be a source of inspiration for other young saxophonists. And so yeah, I think it's been like a kind of full circle, opportunity here because I think we have a lot of similarities in terms of it's a saxophone sextet and variety of music that we play and just fun, high level fun music that we play and yeah. Um, and one other little thing, so I play the bass saxophone in the group. Obviously, I play other saxophones besides the bass, but during my doctorate degree, my dissertation was actually on the bass saxophone
Oh wow.
where I talked about the history of the instrument, important performers, tips on playing it, repertoire lists, altissimo fingering charts, and all of that everything related to the bass saxophone. So
I have to ask a question. Is that doctoral dissertation like is that online? Can people get
yeah,
that? Oh
yeah,
my
it's
God.
available for free if you just search like my name, Lucas Hopkins, bass saxophone, or maybe like CU Scholar. It's on the CU Scholar website, University of Colorado. You'll
Okay.
find um, you can find it on Google easily and download it, or a direct link. But
Wow, that's so cool. And you know what? Um, I have to share something. Oh yeah, Jeffrey's saying, you know what? Yeah, can you guys talk about how the dissertation saved you in BC? British Columbia, you mean?
sure.
Okay, yeah, talk about that because I want to share something interesting about Lucas that flipped me out the other day. Go ahead, Jeffrey, can you talk about that?
Sure. Yeah. So, as you can imagine, as a saxophone sextet, we travel a lot with the instrument, and we've commissioned this really special case for the bass saxophone so that we can fly with it. And typically, we check it under the plane, and usually 6 members and 6 saxophones make it to the destination. In this case, the bass saxophone didn't quite make the transfer to British Columbia. And so we're in the middle of Kelowna, British Columbia, and we're trying to figure out where to find a bass saxophone. A lot of the music stores are saying, "Are you sure you don't want a baritone saxophone?" And we're like, "No, we're pretty sure we want a bass saxophone." And so, thank goodness, we had a student in British Columbia was playing this bass saxophone. And maybe, Lucas, could you talk about the bass saxophone we ended up finding in BC?
So it was it a Con or a Busher? Um, I forget.
It's a big Back to the Future moment.
It
Like,
was in the
was
1920s. And it didn't have all of the keys, no bis key. It only went up keyed up to high E flat. I play a Selmer Series 2 bass with a high F sharp key.
Oh,
And so like some of our rep goes up to like high E, F, F sharp, or even higher now. But and so like I had to remember how to play those notes without those palm keys or front key. And so I had to just kind of look up in my dissertation, like the fingerings that I had previously worked out for some of those notes and kind of relearn some of the music and also kind of relearn some of the finger patterns I was doing without bis and all of that sort of thing.
oh my
And
God.
obviously, tuning tendencies are very different on the long rap American basses versus the more modern Selmer basses. And
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Holy cow. Okay, but I have to ask, what happened to your bass sax? You said it didn't make it. What happened?
well, it showed up and it was all beat up.
Oh no.
We got it fixed, but that's like really the only time that it really would did not. make it okay on a plane trip. They must have dropped it. Um, and yeah,
Oh my gosh. And
I wouldn't have played even if it came.
oh my gosh. And the repairs on a bass sax, I can only imagine. And I don't know, how many techs have enough experience, for a bass sax. And the parts also. Oh my gosh. I know I got to share this one story. I'm in Los Angeles. I'm near Pasadena, and there's this place in South Pasadena called the Barclay, and so there's a really great. I don't know if they still do it on Sunday nights, but there's incredible musicians there, and they had a saxophone group, um, really great saxophone group that had no alto, two tenors, a bari, and a bass sax. And the bass sax, I was speaking to the person afterwards, and he said it was from like 1927. It was that old. And when you just said that right now, I'm thinking, wow, that's really interesting. How interesting is that? But I've got to share this. I got to share something here because before we get to Jeffrey Lee Young, who just spoke a moment ago, I wanted to share this because I saw this is the Frogs promo video, right? So I'm just going to play a little bit of this, but this is what really actually freaked me out.
Fun. They're
So
really fun.
gigs are really fun with them.
Fun, entertainment, high level music.
On a unicycle playing.
Having a good time.
Okay, on a unicycle. Oh my God, I can't even be on a unicycle anyway. So those of you listening to the audio podcast, you got to check out the video for this because that's insanity. We're going to put the link for the promo video as well in the show notes. But
There's a video with a full length video of me playing unicycle on most of the tune for Mozart's Queen of the Night aria on our YouTube channel.
oh my gosh, okay, yeah, okay. So obviously you have some unicycle skills as well. So people don't attempt that at home. Don't get your saxophone and start to do that right away because not a good idea. Okay, just saying you have to have some skills first. Very cool. All right, Jeffrey Lee Young, let me have you to introduce yourself.
Hi everyone, I'm the other Jeff in the group. I'm based in Toronto, Canada as an artist teacher, previously holding teaching positions at Queen's University. I play baritone saxophone in the Moanin Frogs. And I guess for me, while I'm the newest member in the group, I've known these folks for a very long time. And I think Gabe and I go way back to 2013. To the first American Saxophone Academy at Eastman. So while I'm the newest member in the group, I'm so grateful that I get to make music with some of my closest friends. And I think Jeff Siegfried has said, like, even though we live across North America, we maybe spend a third of the year together. So yeah, that's something that I think is really unique to the group, is that we're a bunch of really close friends who've known each other even before the long history of the group itself.
That is very cool, and I'm going to definitely get into that because I'm curious about that too. Awesome, cool. Let me get to Jonathan.
Hello, I'm Jonathan Hulting-Cohen. I play tenor saxophone next to Jeff Siegfried in the Moaning Frogs, and also soprano saxophone, which is an instrument that we added to the mix about 3 to 4 years ago, something like that, which has been quite an adventure and a really fun adventure, I would add.
Oh, that's cool. And I think,
Oh, yes, and I'm also based in Amherst, Massachusetts, and I teach at University of Massachusetts in Amherst.
oh, got it. Okay, cool. And I think I remember, so a couple of years ago at NAMM, I forgot which booth had the sopranino. That's like really, really small, right? Like super
Yeah.
small. Yeah, I even have a picture of me holding that thing.
So here's my sopranino case
Oh my gosh, that's like
with
what?
our stickers. And the sopranino, it's very small.
Yep,
It's like,
that's it.
this is my forearm. So this is about, and I'm 5'9".
Okay, got it. Okay. Yeah, that you won't have a problem bringing that on a plane.
Indeed not.
Cool, awesome. All right, Gabe, introduce yourself.
Hi, my name is Gabe PK. I teach saxophone at Baylor University. I just started here like 7 weeks ago now. But yeah, based in Waco, Texas. Formerly coming from Cleveland, Ohio, where I also am the kind of resident saxophonist for the Cleveland Orchestra. So I just started my 7th season with them. I played bolero with them last weekend. So that's something exciting. But I I love being a part of this. I'm the alto player in the group also, but I love playing with this group because I mean, as you heard, there's so much variety in both the music that we play, but also in the personalities that we have. And one thing that I love about it is that we get to let those personalities come out in our performances. And I hope it comes across in the CD too. That, like we like to have fun. You know, I probably podcast listeners, like the video on the unicycle is incredible. And it is a fun story about that. Actually, we were at NAMM earlier this year, and we played at the Selmer booth for the president and CEO of Con Selmer. And they had seen this unicycle video, and they said to us like, "Oh, you guys don't do that like in the show. That's just for the promo video, right?" And Lucas like, "No, we do that every single show. We do it live." And the look on the faces of the poor CEO and president of Con Selmer, when they could imagine their Selmer Series 2 bass saxophone on a unicycle, it was truly priceless. So it's those kind of reactions that we get from every single audience we play for that really makes this group unique.
Yeah, but the cool thing about that, it's an awesome marketing promo. It really
Mhm.
is. It's like you too can play bass sax on a unicycle. First, learn your unicycle first, please. I got to keep saying that.
Mhm.
Okay, for sure. Awesome. Yeah, and the personalities are definitely showing here. Now, I have to know, the listeners want to know also the history of the group. Like when did you all meet each other? How did you get the name? Who wants to pipe up with that? All right, Jonathan.
I will chime in here, where so Eddie Goodman and I started the Moanin Frogs in 2011. We were students at the University of Michigan, and our teacher Donald Sinta had been whispering in both of our ears about the saxophone craze, this wonderful period in the 1920s and 30s where saxophone was extremely popular. And I think, college student versions of us were like, "Well, it's popular saxophone. That sounds good." So we gave it a shot. Over the years, we've had, from the beginning, we've had amazing membership, amazing saxophone players in the group. And over the years, those members have changed out. And now we have the amazing people that you see before you now. The name is rooted in two pieces that were popular during the saxophone craze, that Moanin saxophone rag and the Bullfrog Blues. And that was the era of mashups. And we put them together. And I think we've grown a lot as a group since that time. We mostly played ragtime music, that is from that time period. But I think we realized pretty quickly that it's more the format of vaudeville, the format of a variety show that really spoke to us. And so now we strive to play a wide range of music, as well as we possibly can. And we hope that comes through on the album.
That definitely comes through on the latest album. That is really interesting. And you know what, Jeffrey, actually, thanks for the reminder too. Can someone talk about Eddie? Can someone just introduce him and say where he's teaching?
All right, so this is my segment in the show usually, so I hope I remember all the states. So Eddie Goodman is one of the founding members of the Moanin Frogs, playing the soprano saxophone, currently based in Tucson, Arizona at the University of Arizona. Did I get that right? Okay, good. This is my Canadian showing, so I'm just trying to make sure I get that right.
That's awesome. Yeah. So, all right. So then there's been a lot of members since, but then okay. You know what? I want to know. All right. So Jonathan, you and Eddie started the Moanin Frogs. When did everybody else start to come in? I know, Gabe, you're the no, Jeffrey. I'm sorry. You're the latest person that's in. Okay, got it. So yeah, can you guys just when did you all start to, gel together and whatnot? And then I also want to talk about, like performances and your debut album as well. Yeah, Gabe.
I've been the third longest. I started in 2014 with the group, um, when I started as a student at University of Michigan.
Got it.
Yeah,
Okay.
and
So
then
14.
and then I was the next newest. So I joined in 2019. Um, Good time to join a touring performing ensemble, in like August 2019. But a funny story that Jeff Siegfried and I actually auditioned at the same time for the alto chair, and I beat Jeff. So
I was
So I
wondering who was going to
joined,
be the one to tell this story. Yeah.
but shortly after that, we had another opening for Jeff Siegfried. And we both were a good fit for the group, and like we're really fortunate that it worked out this way because I think we both kind of found our voice. That like I would have been more uncomfortable on tenor,
Yep.
and I feel like Jeff feels the same way about alto. And
I don't really enjoy the alto book to be totally honest. I have so
well,
much
I
more
have
fun
a
on
great time.
tenor.
So
It's
I think it worked out that way. And
it's
then
perfect.
yeah,
It's perfect. Yeah.
mm.
That's
And
great.
then Jeffrey joined us later on.
All right. Well, so Jeff Siegfried though. So you joined. Well, you joined right after Gabe for the most part.
That's
Well,
right. I memorized the whole show on alto and then memorized it all again a few months later on tenor.
well, you could always fill in. Oh man. Okay. And then Jeffrey Young. Then you joined. What was the date that you joined?
So that's a little bit dubious too. Good time to join the group in the middle of the pandemic. I think my original concert was supposed to be in 2020, but then we moved through like 2021, 2022 area. So I memorized the show and then didn't get to play it, but it gave me more time to keep maintaining it until our Watertown gig in Watertown, New York. 2022 that must have been, I think, something like that.
I know those years blur. The years during COVID just really, right? They really just blur. It's crazy. I remember being at the NAMM show. Yeah, what is it? Early 2020. And I got to tell you, I keep saying this to all my friends. We really think that COVID was flying around there for sure. There were people that, were at some booths one day and then they didn't come in, the rest of the time because people were getting sick. Um, and
the,
the other,
the
go ahead.
Oh, just the NASA conference also was like 1 week before COVID happened, and yeah,
Yeah.
it was or before everything got locked down. Some similar story.
Crazy stuff. And here's the thing, we're dealing with two countries here. So we've got Canada and we've got the US and also the different states. So like I'm in California, we were really locked down, where some states weren't as locked down. So that must have been hard. Um, that must have been hard for you guys in a certain sense. But the other thing too, the one thing that COVID helped with, number one is making Zoom better, but also other types of software, online software that, people are starting to use to bring their music out. So I'm wondering if you guys took advantage of that in terms of like rehearsing, I guess getting your name out there even more. Can someone talk about, I hate to say it this way, the COVID years in terms of, your group and everything?
Um, sure. Yeah, so we did a little bit. We tried to somewhat stay active. We did put out some videos, like record your individual part and then edit them together, that type of thing. We did some of that and a couple with green screen as well, so it almost looks like we're together. Um, so there's a video of Graceful Ghost Rag and there's a video of Johnny Be Good that are green screened. And then there's a video of Mozart's Overture to Figaro, or yeah, Marriage of Figaro. That one wasn't green screen, but it was like, each kind of different parts in the video. So we try to stay active like that. And we did planning. I think it was around COVID, maybe even a little bit before, but that we really started planning for this album, like figuring out rep. And so this album has been in the process for a long time, and we got some initial work done during that time period.
That this is a perfect segue. This leads into let me talk about this latest album, and then I do want to. We should mention your debut album as well. This latest album, One Giant Leap, right? And Jeffrey, can you? Yeah, thank you. Hold up the cover there. And again, we're gonna have. That's awesome, and that's a great picture. We're going to be using that picture on our blog for this particular episode. What This is an unusual concept when you think about it for an album. When Chelsea first pitched this to me, I'm like, this is I had no idea about, the golden records. Okay, so if someone wants to pipe in, like, I don't even know how you guys came up with this idea, how you even knew about this. So how did the concept of one giant leaf come to fruition?
Yeah, as Jonathan was saying, we what we do as a group is kind of more closely aligned with the modern variety show, modern vaudeville, and this idea of like playing music from all over the world, from all different time periods. And as we were looking for an idea for a new CD project, we wanted something that represented that. And it turns out I think it was like the one of the anniversaries of the Voyager space program, and I think some of us had kind of known about the idea of the golden record, but it turns out that, like we were not the first person, we were not the first people that wanted to put together a CD like this. The first people that wanted to do that were actually the scientists at NASA. Who wanted to send out into space kind of a representation of humanity, right? So that's what these golden records are. There are two physical golden records. On one side, they have kind of math problems and like a star map to find Earth. And then on the other side, they have sounds of the Earth. So they have whale songs, they have greetings in different languages, and then they have again a bunch of songs that we put on our album. And these albums, they were pressed in gold, like I said, and then sent out on the Voyager spacecraft. There's two of them, and they are the furthest man-made objects from Earth. So this idea of kind of like a common humanity is something that we really resonated with us. So we wanted to kind of pay homage to that, pay homage to kind of the idea of like again this common humanity that we all share through our own medium, which is Saxophone Sextet. So what we ended up doing was we put about half of our album is songs that are on the actual golden record. So like pieces like Johnny Be Good, which is the classic rock and roll tune, Chuck Berry, but also like traditional like mariachi style tunes, so called El Cascabel. Um, there's also Melancholy Blues, which is like a traditional New Orleans style blues, kind of made famous by Louis Armstrong. So a lot of the variety uh, comes from the intersection of like, yes, we want something that represents everything, and like, oh, why don't we also kind of borrow from what we've already created? We as a society have already created, and create something like something new to us, new to the saxophone community, and again, something that represents what we do. I think really, really well.
No, for sure. Okay, so you know what I still have a question about though? How did I mean, is anyone in this group like, are you into NASA? Are you into, like following the space program? Because I never would have even conceived of this to begin with, so how did that start? How did you know to look for that? That's what I guess what I'm asking.
I did just watch Apollo 13 in IMAX because it came out like
Oh,
a couple weeks ago.
oh,
As like I forget
I
what
need to
anniversary it
go.
was, but
Oh my gosh.
mm,
I think that Star Trek kids are overrepresented in the saxophone community. I certainly was one, and I know many others. So uh, there's many of us that are thinking about space in one way or another. But I think it was just a feat of inspiration on Gabe's part. Just a logical leap.
No pun intended. That's funny, actually. My friend Andy Farber, who he plays with, he's at Juilliard, he plays with JLCO, and I remember because he grew up, close to me in Huntington, Long Island. I was in New Hyde Park. He's a Trekkie, and so when you just said that, I was like, oh, okay. Now I see that. I wasn't a Trekkie. That's okay though, but I know he's a big Trekkie, so that's very interesting. You know what I want to do right now? I'm going to play on one of the tracks, another one of the tracks, right? So the first one that I played in the very beginning was the fanfare from Also Sprach Zarathustra, right? Everybody knows that theme. And I want to do another track. Let's do Melancholy Blues. Let's check this out. And then I'm going to ask you guys like some questions about this. Let me pause this for a second. So the complexity of this, people don't realize the complexity of you've got this bending kind of very characteristic sound, right? From alto, that's alto, right? Yeah. Okay. But then in the background, these really short, tight staccato hits. And what people don't realize, that is really hard to get the timing on that super tight. I mean, you have to be subdividing like to the 32nd, really just nailing that. And I'm wondering, in terms of like technique, right? Technical tips here right now. What advice would you guys have to people that are in saxophone quartets or small groups, in terms of getting the timing that precise, that perfect, your attacks, your releases?
So uh, this this section in particular, we have so much fun with it. Um, Yeah, there's a lot of math that goes into it. And in our individual practice, I know we're all working with metronomes. We're doing metronome games, like very small subdivisions, very large subdivisions, being able to fill in the gaps when the metronome's only clicking every 15 seconds. Like you develop your internal clock, and we've all done that individual work over the course of our lives. But when we're on stage, even when we're rehearsing, the most important things that we're tuning into one another, and we're paying attention to each other. I think like on a social level, right? Like we're reading each other's body language, and honestly, I think that comes down to friendship. It comes down to like being able to interpret one another, know what we're going to do next, know exactly where that next click is going to land. And it's just like the rest of life. Being able to hear somebody, truly hear them, comes down to having a relationship with them, and that's what I recommend for young groups that are working on their ensemble playing. Get to know one another on a level that includes music, but also it goes beyond it.
You know what? This is like sports teams. When you think about it, it's the same chemistry, you know? And the teams that are so dominant, like look at the Kansas City Chiefs, right? How dominant they are. I remember, I'm dating myself, but I remember the New York Islanders back in the late 70s, you know, definitely very dominating ice hockey. I was a Mets fan, the 86 Mets. There's just some kind of they gel. I'm definitely into women's sports, and like it's not my favorite team, but the Kansas City Current. I mean, they gel. There's just something there that's like this glue that's holding everybody together. So my question, I'm curious about this too. Again, I'm going to go back to COVID, where you didn't have that physical connection. You had this like Zoom, and that must have been really tricky, especially with some new members kind of sort of, right, being there, not having that connection at that time. Did you find that once after COVID happened and you were starting to get together again, did you have to relearn that connection? Do you know what I'm saying? Because you didn't have that for maybe a year and a half or so.
Maybe I'll take this one just because like I was the newest person at the group. I'm still the newest person, but it was just one of those things where I'd known these players for so long. And I had been around the Moanin Frogs. I was in the room when they were recording the debut album too. So I did have some history with the group and had an expectation of what the concerts are going to be like. So one thing that we do between all the tours is check in on just making sure repertoire expectations are that we're all on the same page, memorization expectations in particular, that we're all on the same page. And so when I was getting ready for this first concert, I was like, all right, so there's all these reference recordings we're going to be listening to, make sure to practice these tempos, prepare for that. And so of course, having worked with these reference recordings, I feel super prepared to memorize. I show up to the first rehearsal, the group starts wedding dance, and they're going like 60 clicks faster than I expected them to. Like, oh yeah, that's a tune we've been playing since like 2014. We don't play it like that anymore. So when you're talking about like the individual preparation, you can't be like just like, well, I practiced it at 120, therefore I'm going to be the one holding everyone back. You have to learn to adjust real quickly, right? So there is an element of preparation and trust in each other when we're away. But as Jeff was saying, there's also this level of like being able to be reactive spontaneously. As Jeff is talking about just creating a sense of friendship, there's moments where I'll look at him partway through a concert, he'll give me like a little like eyebrow thing, and I'll know to switch my articulation to something a little bit more fun, right? And so in terms of there's a lot that happens in between concerts that's individual prep, but so much of what you see on stage is spontaneous, it's live, and it's because we've done all of this preparation ahead of time and that we've had this performance history with the pieces that we can be so spontaneous on stage without the music stands and just be able to communicate with each other.
That was the word I was okay. Yeah, I was just thinking to myself, I'm taking notes here. Communication, but you know what? With the spontaneity on the stage, that's your version of improvisation when you think about it. Because you know the music, you have to know the music so well. And when you know something so well, that's when you could be reactive to it. Um that's when you can really bring it to a whole other level, right? And with you guys, it's the fun aspect as well.
Yeah, if you come to a live Moanin Frogs show, it's not just a saxophone concert. There are a lot of fun acts. I don't want to spoil anything, but everything that you see on stage is born out of us being silly on stage, or us being like in the middle of our weekly retreats or some annual retreats in the summer, saying like, "Hey, Lucas, wouldn't it be cool if we just ordered a unicycle on Amazon and have it show up at our practice cabin?" And then it becomes a part of the show, right? Like when you talk about that kind of spontaneity, it really is spontaneous. It's a kind of improvisation, a form of creativity that I think is unique to the group. To be able to trust in all the other members in the group that when you try something that like it's either going to be really funny or will fall flat on our face. Hopefully not with the bass saxophone, but like then we learn how to tweak, right? And so that's part of the fun.
I don't know how much tweaking you could do if you fall flat on your face with an instrument.
Hasn't happened yet, so that's
Yeah,
knock on wood,
knock
you
on
know.
wood. Yeah, let's not let that happen. But I was just thinking too, as you were saying, your live shows are really like events. It's not just you guys standing there and I am not knocking other groups that do this. I'm not, because most groups will go on the stage, they'll have their stands and they'll play and they'll be incredible performers. But nowadays, right, we want to stand out, we want to be different. And this sounds like one of the unique things that you guys do that makes you different, that makes you stand out. And I'm wondering, was this always in the history of the Moanin Frogs in terms of the uniqueness, in terms of the fun element? Was this always in the history?
Yes, I would say so. I would say from the beginning we were committed to having a really good time. In fact, there was a moment maybe about 3 years in where we decided we should get serious about our rehearsals. And then we got really serious, and then the music was really bad. It was very interesting. Like it got tighter, but it didn't read because it was too serious. So then the next sort of few years of the Moaning Frogs were trying to figure out how to put together the fun and the whimsy with the detail. And I think that's what this particular collection of humans is doing really well together at this point.
And too, the one thing, especially now where there's just a lot of tension, going on, especially in America. I'll say that because we have a Canadian here, but there's a lot of tension going on. And I think that it's a great stress release, to have that kind of whimsical kind of, show. But the thing is that the very interesting and very cool thing is that it does not affect your playing ability at all. In fact, you just said it, Jonathan, where when you made it more serious, it actually made the music quote unquote bad in a sense. It probably didn't have the same energy, and maybe yeah, I'm going to say the same energy because the audience reacts to energy. And I guess what during that time period where it felt maybe stilted, that's what comes out, yeah, that's probably what comes out. Yeah, Jeff.
Yeah, I think that in a lot of ways, and I wasn't part of the group during the very serious years, but I wonder sometimes if the group has maybe synthesized these two things in some ways. because our music is not frivolous, you know, like we have so much fun, but the golden record is such a great metaphor, right? You know, it's like this thing that gets sent into space that represents planet Earth and so much of humanity and our traditions as a species. Um, you know, and we sent Johnny B. Good to space, right? Like this, it's really fun music, but part of what we're saying to whatever alien life might come here is that's part of being human. Part of being human is having fun. Part of being human is being very serious sometimes. It's such a wide range of experiences that we can have, and we take very seriously the mission of showing how broad music is and that all of it is art, all of it is entertainment, all of it is for everyone.
You know, it's interesting because everybody has different definitions of fun, but wouldn't we all agree though that don't you take an instrument up to have fun, right? And yeah, we have different, people have different ways of expressing that. That's a better way of saying that. Different ways of expressing that. And isn't it really cool though how when you're having fun, the audience knows that. Yeah, let me share a story. So I was filling in, this is a long time ago at Five Towns College, and I was filling in for one of the jazz bands for a friend of mine who had passed. His name is Alan Mandel. And so it was really interesting because Alan's group, like you saw them on the stage, everybody was having a great time in this jazz band. You could feel it. The audience could feel it. And then the band that I was in, and it was a different director. He's a great guy, great player. It's totally different mood. It was like it was almost like people felt like they had to be there, and you could feel that. And you could feel that as a player, and the audience felt that. And the way I know that is because, one of the audience members said to me, "Yeah, it's like that group, you guys look like you were not having fun. But Alan's group, holy cow, I mean, I was just getting into it." And that's one piece of advice that, I mean, I'd like to share, but you just accentuate that to the thousandth degree. You don't have to be, again, you don't have to be on a unicycle, to show fun, but having the energy of you're having fun, it's just as important as having the technique. That's what I feel. I don't know if anybody wants to comment on that.
Well, I guess for me, when I talk to my students about it, you start working on articulation, and then the articulate, and then the dynamics go, and then you work on the dynamics, but then like the phrase shape is gone, right? I always say to my students, I'm a very greedy teacher. I want all of the elements, right? And so something that is really incredible about this group is that because we have six different personalities that are six teachers, right? All of us are thinking all the time in ways to elevate different aspects of the game. I'm very grateful to get to sit beside Jeff Siegfried, who is like the time master, but then at the same time, Gabe PK is like, all right, let's get going. And to make sure that all the pieces in that 90-minute set actually get worked on. And then Jonathan is so helpful with talking about staging and lighting. Lucas is the logistics master. The Moanin Frogs doesn't happen without him. And Eddie, I think, is like king of fun. Like so much of the gags that make it into the show are because Eddie's being silly. But it's good, right? And so it's one of those things where music does not live in technique land. It does not live in sloppy musicianship. It's the culmination of the entire package.
I love that. I love that. And it's so interesting how I'm wondering if these roles that you just mentioned for each person in the group, if you always have felt the propensity for that, or if that just, you just started to grow into that. Do you know what I mean? When I'm saying that, like you're mentioning, like, Jeff's the time master, right? Gabe, all right, come on, everybody, let's get going. The logistics, the lighting, the gags and stuff. I'm wondering if that is something that just developed over time, or if that was the personality beforehand.
Well, every time we add a new person, we have to reconfigure the roles in the group because it's very hard to find you know, an alto player who also happens to be the timekeeper. You know what I mean? Like that's not we can't really audition in that way, or So it's been a very interesting process. Every time we get somebody new, we have to think, and we want to think about what everyone's strengths are. And certainly there are times when something's maybe not getting done, and someone steps up and starts doing that, either in a logistical way or in a rehearsal way. And then we say, oh, that's a really good idea. And then we have to decide whether this is now this person's role or whether that's a new value for the group that we want to share together.
That brings up this question too. So, all right, when people are auditioning or have auditioned for this group, you know, aside from the obviously technical mastery, what are some other considerations that you've thought of? You're saying role, but how much of one person's personality can come across in these auditions? Yeah, Gabe.
So we like to joke that one requirement to be in the Frogs is that you have to own at least 3C melodies. Because it's a little bit of a joke, but I think it speaks to like what our interests are and like this idea of fun. I only own two, so thank you for letting me in, Frogs. But it's part of that ethos, and I think a big part of these auditions is kind of like most of the people that we auditioned, I've been lucky enough to sit on Jeffries, the two Jeffs, and the Jeffries, if you will, is like everyone's going to be a great player. Anyone we ask, we kind of already know that they're going to be a great player. But one, like, are they versatile? Like, are they able to play different styles really well, or are they locked into kind of one way of playing? And the other thing is personality wise, like, is this person we can see ourselves? Is this someone that we can see ourselves spending 9 hours in a minivan with? And like a weekend in a cabin with, because we do not travel in luxury. It's something we're working towards, is kind of like our logistics, because we're expanding, and like we're very fortunate to have a lot of shows. This is our busiest season yet, and with that comes kind of some of these aspects that we're navigating. So like it's not just like, can you play the concert, and can you do the gig, and we'll send you a check. It's like, okay, what else can you contribute? Like, the music's going to be there, we know that, but do you consider yourself organized? How's your social media stuff? And we do ask those questions. Like, I remember when we were talking about like whether we wanted to bring Jeffrey Lung on, it was like, oh well, like, yes, he's an incredible player, but also he has like an incredible social media presence. A lot of, I think this, Jeffrey, that we all appreciate what you do with the social media stuff, and like everything just looks so professional when you do it. Whereas when any of us do it, it's kind of like it's done, but it doesn't just have that polish that you bring to your online presence. And that was like a huge plus for us, because that's something that we needed. And again, we got very lucky that Jeff is also an incredible baritone saxophonist. So it's a lot of that is kind of wrapped up in not just playing, but like, what else can you do? Are you a person that we want to hang out with? The other joke is that you also have to have gone to the University of Michigan, because everyone else in the group is a University of Michigan alum except for myself. I'm the only one that didn't go.
You have two strikes against you. You one C melody sax short.
I know. I'm surprised.
Maybe you made it up with the amount of mouthpieces that you have.
I do own a lot of mouthpieces, and I do own, for some reason, a lot of tenors. So I don't know, but
maybe the requirement is like X amount of horns and X amount of mouthpieces. That's awesome.
Right. But it's about that. It's not just about playing, but it's about what else do you bring? What value do you have? Like, as a in whatever your personal capacity you bring, and then also from a social perspective, like, can we see you fitting in, and would you get along with 5 other people from the University of Michigan? No, just kidding. But
or not. Oh, so all right, yeah. So personality, and this goes back to what we were saying before about, when you have a group that's this tight, like, you really have to communicate, but you have to also be friends. And again, the same thing with the sports team as well. The best teams get along. There's no like divas, and just from the little that I'm seeing right here, I don't see anybody being a diva, and that's really hard. That's really hard to deal with, because it's you want everybody to feel comfortable in the group. And you know what? Can we go back to the debut album? Okay, so I don't know if Jonathan or Lucas wants to, talk a little bit about that, but like, when the group started, I think you said 2011, right? Okay, so then when was the debut album?
2017, I believe.
Okay.
August 2017.
All right. And what was on, like, that actually that took 6 years before the debut album came about. Not that it needed to come out sooner. I'm just thinking, what in the span of 2011 to 2017, you guys were probably doing like a lot of concerts and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, during that time we were doing a bunch of concerts. It's an interesting period. Early frogs. So we were students to begin with, yeah, and then so this is the tadpole moving into froglet territory, where we essentially we were a student group. We got some nice breaks from the university to play at functions and get our sea legs, so to speak. Ugh, mixed brackish water messages here, but I think that we've got um, you know, that repertoire, as I was mentioning earlier, we have a lot of saxophone craze repertoire, which we were playing at that time, but we had started to shift into this other mode. So that album represents pretty much most of the music that we had at that point, which was some of the saxophone craze era stuff. Then we started adding pieces like Flight of the Bumblebee and some more classical pieces and things like that, and some more jazz tunes as well. Um, and for a while we were playing a number of professional gigs, but we were actually mostly doing teaching. We were mostly playing educational shows. We had a wonderful early break to be picked up by the Conn-Selmer Division of Education, who
Oh,
was
okay.
helping us visit schools and play at their Conn-Selmer Institute and things like that. That really got us um, concerts, in that sort of arena that involved a lot of teaching as well. So that's sort of what that music was, and that what that era in the Frogs was.
And all those C references, but that was awesome. I don't know if it was intentional or it just came out, but that was actually really funny for sure. And I'm just remembering too, on the new album, oh gosh, I forgot which piece it was, but someone threw in Flight of the Bumblebee. No, 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 they didn't. Sorry, they da 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 da. I think that's what I heard. The circus theme, right? I think that's what I heard. In the,
Yakety sax from the first album, maybe.
I'm not sure. It
Or
was.
maybe was it Eddie's solo and Johnny B. Good? He usually does like a Flight of the Bumblebee reference.
That's the one.
That was it. That was it. That was it.
Yeah.
You know what? Actually, perfect segue, guys. Let's check out a little bit of Johnny B. Good, and this is on the latest album, One Giant Leap. I'm gonna call this up over here. Yeah. That's so cool. This is so good. Yeah. Cool. Nice. That is so cool. What a cool, watch my language. What a cool version that was. Oh my gosh. With the little piano sounding, higher sounding instruments, but with the like the growl or the that was a growl or a flutter tongue because that was like it wasn't a dirty growl.
Yeah, I think I use a flutter on that. To be honest, it's ingrained enough. It's like tying my shoes. I'm not quite sure what I'm what I'm doing, but yeah, it's like a French R flutter, a guttural flutter. Yeah,
Okay, talk about that. So
oh, the
I'm not.
technique. Yeah.
Yeah, because I know for flutter tonguing, you have to be able to roll your R's. I can't roll my R's to save my life. I can growl, but I can't roll my R's. So how would you teach
So
somebody?
the front I can roll my R's fine in almost any context except playing the saxophone. I cannot seem to figure out how to get the mouthpiece like fit in just a way that there's still room for my tongue. I am so impressed with all the people who are great at this. I'm not among them. So instead, when I am doing flutter tongue, it's like a which is kind of next to just like if you're this this kind of like horse sound. Uh, Not a whinny, but a sound of hoarseness. Um, like a clearing of the throat. It's kind of next to that. That's what I do when I do a flutter tongue most of the time.
Oh,
There are
all
some
right.
times that I occasionally I'll see a flutter tongue sound and I will use this like lateral tongue movement to do it. But
Wow.
yeah, most of the time it's like a guttural flutter, and
That is
especially for rock and roll, I love that sound.
No, that's so interesting. I've never heard of different types of flutter tonguing. I really haven't. I just heard of the rolling the R type of thing.
Hmm.
And I'm like, and I took Spanish too. That's really sad, right? So I just can't roll my R's, but I can growl. But it's just yeah. So Jeff, like your sound, that was everybody's sound was great, but that was so cool. You know, yeah, the way you just captured that and just the whole
Thank you.
yeah.
I think I had one. I think I used a specific mouthpiece for that. That I like saved. I had like a normal jazz mouthpiece for every other thing in the studio. Maybe somebody else remembers this, but I had like a metal R&B mouthpiece saved up just for that track, and brought it out. And so it was a lot of fun.
No, it's great, guys. I mean, that is an awesome track. Oh my God. And so the Flight of the Bumblebee, that was really, really cool. And so I've got to ask too, were there was improvisation going on there, right? There was definitely improvisation going on. And that's something that I want to talk about in a second. I think Jonathan, you wanted to say something.
I have to go teach saxophone ensemble.
Oh no.
We have to start in about 8 minutes. So thank you so much. But it's been a pleasure to speak with you on a gorgeous podcast.
Thank you so much, Jonathan. It was great having you.
Thank
Awesome.
you. Bye.
Take care. Yeah, so then you guys then is part of the audition or part of the requirements the ability to improvise?
Generally, no. It's a plus, and a lot of us have improvisation experience. But I think one reason why that track works really well. So I arranged that track, and something that we do a lot is like we do a lot of our own arrangements. But what that affords us a luxury of doing is writing for specific people. So I know Jeff Siegfried is like a incredible improviser, an incredible tenor player. And I know spent a lot of time, like even in between degrees, playing a lot of jazz. So I wanted Jeff to be the star of this one. Like you talk about not having divas, Jeff is a diva on this one. because I made it so because I wanted him to be that. But knowing that Eddie also has a lot of experience improvising, and I have less than both of them combined, but I want to dip my toes in, so I did a little bit of improvisation for myself. But knowing like playing a lot of the arrangements on this album play to our strengths. So I think about like Lucas has an incredible altissimo register. So somebody wrote the Queen of the Night aria for Lucas like in the altissimo, right? And then one a recent arrangement that we did is Phantom of the Opera for Jeffrey Lung, who has an incredible like Barry sound. So we made this entire baritone aria for him based on that. So a lot of the arrangements again are geared towards specific people, towards specific skill sets. So that's kind of how we get around. Like that's why it's not required that you improvise in the Frogs, but it's a nice to have, and if you can, then you will have stuff written for you that
That's
includes that.
no, that's great. And that makes total sense to write to people's strengths, you know? And again, I keep going back to the sports analogies, right? People play certain positions. That's what they specialize in. It's the same thing. It's the same thing here. And yeah, just having that ability, especially if you're classically trained, because it's not, it's, I even to this day, it's still uncommon, to have any kind of, unfortunately, any kind of experience with improvisation. For some people, they get freaked out by it because so much time is spent on, making your technique perfect, right? And also, uh, adjusting the reeds so that they work. I was just thinking about that as well. But just the fact that, man, that track is just so good. That I wonder if that's like your last piece that you play at concerts and stuff, because I could see that being a showstopper at the end.
End of the first half. Leave them excited for more. Yeah.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think it's great, and I'm glad that again it's part of this record. Um, you know, but we were talking about the growth period, the tadpole period going into like the frogs period, and now we have this album out, and it really literally just came out. So how are you guys dealing with, you're in all parts of not only the US but also Canada as well. So you had briefly mentioned about, Jeff L in terms of the social media. So like are you the one that's handling, promoting, or how does that work for the group? 'Cause especially because you're busy teaching.
I will say everybody picks up the slack where we need to. It's a well-oiled machine, but in terms of how the logistics run for the group, I must point to Lucas Hopkins. The group does not happen if Lucas Hopkins is not here. But in terms of like the things that are run between concerts and stuff, everybody is at the end of each frog meeting, everyone is delegated certain tasks so that it's not generally a single lift by a single person. And sometimes if it's a bigger thing, there might be like a person that takes lead on a subgroup of the frogs. So it's usually a mix of things that, again, as Jonathan was saying, plays to different people's strengths and on people's different availabilities during different times of the year. So we try to be very cognizant of that. But I will say, Lucas does play the bass saxophone, but he also does the most heavy lifting in the group.
No pun intended. For sure. And again, it goes back to the playing of roles. And I was just thinking as you were talking about that, Jeff, how that's another great tip to share, because it shouldn't really just be one person, doing everything, because I think then there can be resentment, and people feeling like, yeah, they just get resentful. And then that comes out in the music, everything comes out in the music, for sure. I'm just curious though, again, you guys are all at all different colleges, and, college schedules, maybe they are more similar than I think, but how are you able to fit in the concerts within your schedules, and maybe, some other things that you're personally doing? I don't know.
Um, I mean, I think as most of us as saxophone teachers at universities, a big portion, if not like the primary portion of what we do is teach lessons. And maybe some studio class and stuff like that. But if we do have to go on the road for a gig and we maybe have to travel on Thursday, for some, we try to do most of our concerts based around the weekend or an extended weekend. And sometimes it goes more into the middle of the week, but sometimes we move lessons around during the week, do makeup lessons. And so usually like, yeah, we're able to work it out. Everyone gets their lessons then. And there's some flexibility there. And like I said, a lot of our stuff is based around weekends. Maybe sometimes we have to miss a Friday or a Monday, or occasionally other days of the week. And so I try to keep my Fridays pretty open because we are traveling a lot. So I try not to schedule too much on Fridays. And I think some other people think of that similarly because of our schedule.
Okay, that makes sense then. Okay, so you're mostly doing like saxophone lessons, studio work. If you were tied down, I hate to you say that way, but it's true. If you were tied down teaching a class at a particular time, I think it would be a lot harder than, to be able to do what you're doing. And I guess the good thing too, colleges as compared to being like a high school teacher, you've got more of a summer type of break. and I'm sure that's when most of your touring would probably take place. No, no, okay.
No, we do creative retreats during the summer, often at Avalock Farm Music Institute. It's kind of our home away from home, uh, and so there's a lot of resetting that takes place during the summer, but the majority of our touring takes place during the year in these very kind of like quick run out concerts. Do a handful of concerts over a weekend, and then go back to our home institutions and teach through the week. Um,
Wow.
and we're really lucky to have a great manager, Gene Schreiber. So if anybody's listening to the podcast and would like to book the Moanin Frogs, please reach out to Gene Schreiber Management, and she'll hook you up.
You know what? When we're done, give me that information. I'll put that in the description, for the show. This way, that would be awesome. That's one thing we love to promote our people that are on the show and love to get you more shows. I'm shocked though. I would have thought, I taught public schools for a while. It's like summertime, woohoo! I would have thought that that would have been the time that you guys would have been playing tons of shows, and like doing outdoor types of shows. I could see that, like outdoor amphitheaters and whatnot. But no, you're doing a lot of that during the year. And I think
Yeah.
oh yeah, I think it's a great idea though, the creative retreats. That's
Yeah.
really smart.
I think, yeah, the reason that a lot of it is during the year is because a lot of what we do is concert series, and concert series tend to have seasons that start maybe around September and go through around April or May. There are summer music festivals and stuff, but like most of what we do is concert series and in a theater, and they have donors or ticket sales or sponsors that make them available to afford us. And there are like concerts in the park and stuff, but I think a lot of things, groups that do that are like cover bands and those types of things. And yeah.
Have you guys? I'm sorry. Go ahead, Gabe.
Oh, well, just to add one thing, that the other thing that we do that's really helpful is to have it during the school year is that we do educational events. And it's hard to do, a clinic with a middle school or an elementary school, which we love to do and we do often during the summer. So a lot of the side, like Lucas was saying, well, fly out on Thursday night, do a clinic Friday morning, rehearse, play a concert, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then fly back,
Got it.
or stay over and do a Monday thing and then fly out Monday night. So that becomes much much easier because we do get a lot of support from concert series and from Colin Selmer to do educational events.
Right. That's smart. And you know what? I just had an idea, and I don't know if you've thought about this, but um, and this could be honestly something that you could do if you have the time. Have a summer camp for kids. Have a summer camp, maybe get it sponsored by Conselmer, right? Have a week-long thing because the number of reasons. Number one, oh my God, this would be amazing for kids. A lot of them never have seen a bass sax before. A lot of them have never seen a
Right.
soprano, right? So if you have like some kind of summer camp type of thing for kids and, bring them in from wherever, they stay with you guys for a week, you form saxophone ensembles. I'm just thinking about all
Mhm.
the summer camps that I've gone to.
We it it has it we are having discussions about this. This
Oh,
is
awesome.
something that we would like to offer. So if they
Oops. Uh-oh. Jeff froze for a second. Oh,
Oh, can you hear me?
oh yeah, let's
Am I
let's
back?
yeah, let's say that again. I think
Yeah,
we froze. So
sure.
you're thinking
Yeah,
about
if
this.
anybody is of summer camp age, stay tuned in the coming years for potential Moanin Frogs summer camp. We eventually will be offering this. I unfortunately do have to get back to teaching in just a minute, so I want to thank you so much for for having us, for having me. The Lucas, Gabe, and Jeffrey will carry on, but I must run. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. It was great meeting you. Thank you so much. And I'm glad that this is in your minds in terms of doing that summer camp. And summer camp age would be what age would you figure for you guys? 13 or something? Like what are you thinking?
We've talked about a lot of different configurations for a summer camp, potentially starting as early as middle school, all the
Okay.
way to like middle school through high school. We've also, I don't know if we actually talked about a collegiate level camp, but I think that's kind of the age range we'd be targeting is like, I think high school would be the kind of lowest friction for us because that's what we're most familiar with. Um, but we, like I said, we've done a lot of clinics with middle elementary schools, and we always are very popular with that age range. So,
Yeah,
um,
no, I could see that because you know what I love about this? Okay, it's funny because I read so many different things, and there's like this discussion on Sax on the Web, right? It's a separate forum website which has been around forever, which is awesome, right? But there's this one discussion about, oh, the saxophones died in popular music or rock and roll, and in some ways you can kind of feel that, but that's not so true because when you have big name stars like Kelly Clarkson, she has a horn section, okay? But if you're not lucky enough to go to a concert, you don't know that. Or if there's not enough video from that concert, you don't know that. But you having the ability, number one, through Conselmer, to go to the schools, have these clinics, and then these young kids who may have never seen even a Barry sax before, they're like, wow, that's really cool. Or maybe they've not heard of Leo P yet. You know what I mean? Even though he's got that big presence, right? But I'm just thinking like the potential for this to get more kids interested in saxophones, even other instruments aside from, like guitar and bass. You know what I mean? I think that's just there's so much opportunity here. That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, for sure. And we're also working on like besides if we did this having small chamber groups, we're working on developing music that maybe has simplified versions of parts for them to play along with us.
Oh,
Um, yeah, and being able to offer that even in clinics if we go to a school. But yeah, summer camp is something we've been talking about. We just have to, there's a lot of logistics to figure out,
oh,
funding, where, like legal things, working with minors and so a lot of busy work that needs to happen to like actually make it happen.
I'm wondering if perhaps one of your college campuses can help out with that. I'm just
Right.
thinking off the top of my head, but you just brought up something else, Lucas, that's really interesting too. I didn't even think about this. Simplified music for the younger students. So, okay, when you guys are making your arrangements, that's right. You're writing it out, right? You have to whichever. Well, I was going to say whether it's finale. Someone should play a sob song right now. Finale or Sibelius or now I guess it's Dorico, whatever. But you have all these arrangements already, so then it would be just a question of rearranging for the younger students and also honestly selling that and providing funding, to help you guys with expenses and whatnot.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I do have to ask though, what do you do your arrangements on? Was it Finale or did you do it on Sibelius? I just gotta ask.
I think it's different. Like I use Sibelius. Eddie used to use Finale, now uses Dorico.
He does, okay.
Um,
I use MuseScore.
Really? Okay. Okay. Yeah, I've been using Finale since the year 2000 and I tried to make the leap to Dorico. I need to spend more time on it. Um, have a lot of students that use MuseScore, but you probably have to have like a professional version because, you want all the capabilities and whatnot. And that's such a sad story too with Finale, but I don't mean to go down the sad route. We got to make this fun again. Okay, so let's get away from that. But I was going to ask about future projects. So, I mean, we're kind of talking the summer camp thing, the simplified music. We've got the new album out right now. So, like around that and any other types of things, what are the future projects for the group?
well, we already started working on our next album. We recorded some tracks. It'll still be a while before it comes out, but it is a holiday album.
Great.
And we have some holiday video that will be coming out. We still need more music to fill out a whole album, and so it might not even be out by the next Christmas, not this one coming up, but maybe the one after that. Um, but yeah, so that we're constantly getting new arrangements just to include in our shows, thinking about what music we're interested in and um, we're also hoping to eventually have an orchestral show offering where because some orchestras bring in different groups, do like pops concerts, and so we want to have that offering and are working towards that of playing some of our repertoire with like orchestral accompaniment, augmenting our pieces to play with orchestra. So that's something that we're working on and thinking about as well.
Wow, that's really cool. Oh my gosh. And I'm thinking about the Hollywood Bowl actually, which is right by me. But are you Do you have any holiday arrangements right now? Because I'm just thinking, do you put them in your shows? Yeah.
Yeah, we're going to. We haven't done any yet. We might do some in November, and we're playing at Midwest Clinic in Chicago in December, so we'll play a couple there. And yeah, but yeah, we're starting to offer a holiday show that we're hoping to get bookings for concert series. So this summer we recorded some tracks and video that to make like a promo reel for our holiday show. Like you saw our one of our promo reels just about the group, and now we kind of have like a sizzle reel for holiday music to try to get some of those concerts as well. So yeah, we have some holiday music already, and we'll be getting even more.
That's awesome. And if people don't know what a sizzle reel is, it's essentially a video with like snippets from a bunch of pieces. It's very well edited because when it comes to booking concerts, people that are on the receiving end of the promoters, not the promoters, but the venue people, they're not going to listen to a whole song. They want to listen to snippets of things. They want to get a general taste for what's going on. So that's what a sizzle reel is, just in case anybody was wondering. But I mean, just the energy and the uniqueness of what you guys do. I mean, this is definitely something that you know I can only see like the trajectory going way upwards, because it's so interesting and it's fun. It's just fun.
Yeah.
You can't not have fun. And in fact, you know what? I want to play another track here, if you don't mind. You also have, what's interesting, you have My Heart Will Go On in here, but I wanted to do this one, Slava. This is so cool. Check this out. That is so cool. And I'm just thinking, the sound characteristics from one horn to the other with that slight, I don't know if it's like a growl type of thing going on, right? But just passing along the instruments and stuff. The timing again, right? Impeccable. And you know what I wanted to ask too, and Lucas, I want to ask this of you as well. In terms of technique, having the breath support to be able to play, the bass sax, and like I should have asked this before with also sprach Zarathustra, holding that note, right? Forever. Man, you must have incredible breath support. Like, can you give some tips for people, when it comes to that? Because that's incredible.
Yeah, it definitely takes more air the bigger the instrument and also the lower the note.
Yeah.
Um, and so, yeah, just really knowing how to breathe properly, not taking shallow breaths from up here and just working about on your breathing, thinking about your breathing. Even just like exercising, I think helps, like running or swimming or biking or doing whatever, I think can help increase um your body's ability to more efficiently use oxygen and take in more air. And I think so that can help with the playing. And some of our pieces, like Jeffrey and I, do some circular breathing as well.
Oh, wow.
And like Jeffrey is really good and like at it. And there's some things with circular breathing that I never thought was possible before I and Jeffrey started doing it in the Moanin Frogs. For example, in like Bach, there's this part where Jeffrey and I are just articulating consonant eighth notes, and we're like able to circular breathe while articulating. I never used to circular breathe when articulating. Usually it'd be like when you're slurring and everything. And sometimes when you're holding a note too, we'll do it. Jeffrey is particularly good at that. Even on low notes, I'm blown away with how well Jeffrey can circular breathe on low notes, holding a low note. Like we're playing stuff that's loud and long, and Jeffrey can just like circular breathe on that, and then I kind of inspired by that, and I like start doing it sometimes too if I have the right read or in the right situation. And so it takes a lot of air, but also like developing new skills with like circular breathing and getting good at doing it in places that are traditionally that it's not done in.
Yeah, you know, that I didn't even think about that in terms of the articulation, but no, I should have because in thinking back to Wynton Marsalis, Flight of the Bumblebee. Now, most of that is slurred, but still, you know, there's points of articulation in that as well. And so Jeffrey Leung, any like tips for people in terms of circular breathing?
Oh boy. Well, I will say something like Slava is just one of those pieces where we have to think beyond the limits of what saxophone can do, and just in terms of like if we're talking about things like articulation, you know, like from the low end, thinking about we're not playing the bass or baritone saxophone in this moment, we're emulating trombone, and then other times it's bassoon, which is a different character in both the quality and the character of the articulation. So that's something that I think this group does particularly well, is that we think beyond of the possibility of what a saxophone ensemble is, but really drawing inspiration from a wide range of things. So Slava, I think, encapsulates a lot of that. But to Lucas's point, and what Gabe was saying earlier, as we're arranging for this group, some of the ridiculous things they're writing for each other really force us to rethink how we interact with this instrument. And I will say, like, in particular, Jeff Siegfried's arrangement, like, he's asked me to do the most ridiculous things on baritone saxophone. And we just learn to do it because we trust each other to sort of figure it out in some ways. But in terms of like tips for circular breathing, I always tell students to start on just the neck assembly of the instrument, just to get the key work out of the way and just to build that coordination. Because I think enough people know how to like inhale through their nose and then out of their mouth. But the coordination of that just takes a lot of focus. So if you just start on the neck of the instrument, it gives you enough of the saxophone feel to sort of get an idea of how to sort of coordinate that motion. And then the next part is like, actually, I personally feel like circular breathing through scales is easier than holding a single note, because when you're moving, even just through a trill, you can hide that little of the moment where the cycle has to kick in. So actually starting on a trill when you start incorporating your fingers again is a good way to hide that sort of dip in the sound. I think hard circular breathing is holding a stable note. And actually, that's actually much harder to do because you have less room to hide that sort of change in the cycle. And then in terms of circular breathing through these impossible passages, it's like learning where to choose your battles. So I'm glad I fooled Lucas, but when circular breathing through those low parts, it's usually when the orchestration thickens up is when I choose to do that cycle of the breath so that I can hide that. So yeah, it's a little bit of a magic show. Sometimes when you come to a Moanin Frogs thing, we're doing ridiculous things, but also just the stuff that happens behind the scenes. Which I think the saxophonists on this podcast are super interested about, that they're super into. But yeah, in terms of circular breathing, start just on the neck, and then when you're ready to do that switch, actually, I think it's counterintuitive, but even just a trill from a G to A, just move one finger. That's a great way to sort of get over that initial hump of the coordination. I don't know if everybody in the group can circular breathe. I will say this. So I don't know if others had tips.
That's actually interesting. And you know, it never occurred to me to try to do that on the neck first. It makes total sense. You know, a lot of times when we're teaching tone to beginners, you know, people will start off right away on the horn. Some people start at the mouthpiece, but the neck actually in some ways is better because you're limited to one pitch. You know, the mouthpiece can go all over the place. And if you're not putting the mouthpiece in at like the right angle that you would normally play at, then it's like you've got to relearn, you know? And but that's really interesting. And it's very interesting too that everybody in the group can circular breathe. So that also allows for the level of ridiculousness to be added to when it comes to the arrangements and stuff. Listen, guys, this has been awesome. So I know that, you know, you guys have to get back to teaching and whatnot, but can you share, how can people find you online?
So we're everywhere online, I guess, as the elected social media person. We are all over Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. A lot of our content also lives on YouTube, and if you want to listen to either of our albums, you should be able to find them on all of the major streaming platforms. We are currently working on figuring out Spotify. I'm not sure if that's been resolved yet, but that's coming, so that's also a thing. But if you also want to support us, visit us at themoaninfrogs.com, where you can sign up for a mailing list. You can also support us through our by purchasing merch, the albums. And certainly, if you come out to shows, there is exclusive merch that is only available at shows, which are made by Eddie's wife, Kristen, which we are in. They're crocheted frogs. So come to a live show. Those are only available there. And Lucas or Gabe, am I missing anything there?
We also have a lot of our sheet music arrangements for sale. So if there's any saxophonists out there that play in saxophone ensembles, we have a lot of our music for sale on our website. A couple quartet versions of our pieces, but also sextet versions, and some of them, not all of them, have optional second bari part for those groups that don't have a bass saxophone.
Sure.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
And the handles for all these things are the Moanin Frogs. Moanin without the G, the Moanin Frogs.
Got it. And Gabe, you were going to say something.
Yeah, and we're also we will be launching a Patreon soon. And on that Patreon, we're going to host live videos from our concerts. And that'll be kind of the only place we post. We'll post clips on YouTube, and we actually, I don't know if anybody mentioned YouTube, but a lot of our content is on YouTube. But we'll reserve the full-length concerts where you can watch us. You can watch the unicycle act. We have, Jeff sings an entire aria. It's really, really great. So if you want to watch the whole thing, then you'll be able to find that picture. Again, it's not launched yet, but soon, coming soon.
Coming soon. And I have to ask too, are you guys, I didn't realize you were at the NAMM show this past year. Are you going to be going to NAMM this year in 2026?
No.
Ah, too bad.
Unfortunately not, no.
Midwest.
Okay. No, got it for sure. Well, I'll be checking your website to see when you're going to be coming out here. But I want to thank you guys so much. This has been so much fun to listen to the music, but also to watch some of the videos as well. I'm going to encourage everybody to check out the moaninfrogs.com website. I really appreciate your time, guys.
Yeah, thank you so much for having us. This has been such a blast, and thanks for supporting the album and the Moanin Frogs.
Yeah, thank you so much, Donna.
Oh, you're so welcome, guys. Hey, everybody. Today's podcast was brought to you by our good friends at Gig Salad. Gig Salad is a service I've been using for many years. Now, if you're looking to book more gigs and grow your audience as a saxophone player, whether you're a solo artist or in a band, Gig Salad makes it easy to connect with event planners across the US and Canada for weddings, birthday parties, corporate events, funerals, you name it. With Gig Salad's strong Google presence, you get better exposure to planners looking for your talent. The full service platform lets you set availability preferences to get only the leads that you want, and it makes messaging, quoting, and booking a breeze. And best of all, clients pay up front. Your money's guaranteed every time. So head on over to Gig Salad, that's GIGSALAD.com. Create your free profile now. Take that first step to booking more shows. That's gigsalad.com. And please let them know that the Everything Saxophone podcast sent you.